Hello friends, about 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? There are places where time seems stuck. Right in the heart of Times Square, where the lights never go out and the sound of honking fills the air day and night, there stands a hotel few people ever really notice. It's called the Knickerbocker. Old, elegant, and full of things that shouldn't be spoken of. I took the job as the night receptionist after weeks of unemployment. Night shifts in Manhattan are usually quiet, sometimes even boring enough to make you fall asleep, but not at the Knickerbocker. On my very first night, the day manager handed me a pale yellow sheet of paper crumpled like it had passed through a dozen hands. It read, 7 rules to survive. No jokes, no skipping, no questions. I laughed. Who writes this kind of thing for a hotel job? But a few hours later, I saw the elevator go up to the 7th floor, even though the system said it was offline. I heard footsteps above me, even though no rooms had lights on. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a hotel. I'm not telling this story for sympathy. I'm telling it because if you ever take a job at the Knickerbocker, or anywhere like it, you need to understand, follow the rules, or you won't leave as yourself. I worked the night shift at the Knickerbocker Hotel, and this is what happened to me. I wasn't looking for anything special, just a job to pay rent and keep the lights on. When I saw the listing for a night shift receptionist at the Knickerbocker Hotel, I didn't hesitate. The place had history hell, it was practically a landmark in Times Square, but I'd never really thought about it. To me, it was just another old building trying to stay alive in a city that never stops moving. The interview was brief. The manager barely looked up from his desk. He just asked if I could stay awake all night and follow instructions. That was it. 2 days later, I got the call. You start this Friday, midnight sharp. The first time I stepped into the hotel lobby, it felt like I had walked into another era. Faded red carpets, dim golden sconces flickering against wood-paneled walls. A heavy silence pressed against the ceiling like thick fog. The kind of place that should smell like cigarette smoke and old perfume, but didn't. It just smelled empty, not clean, not dirty, just nothing. The air was still, like the hotel was holding its breath. At the front desk, there was no welcome packet, no uniform, no orientation, just an old wooden counter, a creaking stool, and a clipboard with a check-in sheet dated back at least a week. Behind the desk was a wall of brass keys. No digital locks here, this place was stubborn about its history. Taped to the underside of the desk drawer, barely visible, was a folded piece of paper. It was yellowed soft around the edges, like it had been handled too many times. I almost ignored it, but something about the way it was hidden made me curious. I unfolded it slowly. Written in shaky, blocky handwriting were 7 rules. 1. Never enter the basement, no matter what you hear. 2. Do not greet anyone after 2:13 a.m., even if they greet you first. 3. If room 703's phone rings, do not answer it. 4. There is no room 0. Stop looking. 5. If the mirror moves, look away, immediately. 6. Do not take the elevator if it opens by itself. 7. Leave the front door unlocked at 3:13 a.m. Just once, then lock it again. I read the list 3 times. I almost laughed. Some sort of hazing ritual, I thought. A twisted joke by the last guy who worked here. Or maybe just the hotel's way of being quirky. But as I folded the paper back up, I noticed a faint smear of something dark on the bottom corner. Dried. Maybe ink. Maybe not. 12:17 a.m. The lobby was quiet, save for the hum of the wall-mounted clock. A flicker in one of the chandeliers. A quiet creak from upstairs. The kind of noises any old building might make. But then I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, on the carpeted stairs leading down from the 2nd floor. I leaned over the desk, peering through the archway. No one. The footsteps stopped. Then the front desk phone rang. Line 703. My hand hovered over the receiver. Just for a moment. I didn't answer. There's an old mirror mounted behind the desk, cracked on the edge. I glanced into it briefly, but the reflection wasn't quite right. I saw myself, sure, but I was standing differently. My head tilted just a little too far, and I was smiling. I wasn't smiling. I blinked and everything snapped back to normal. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the hotel was playing tricks on my eyes. Maybe. By 3 a.m. I had stopped checking the time, stopped moving really. I just sat there listening, watching the shadows bend ever so slightly when they thought I wasn't looking. The rules weren't funny anymore. And as I heard the soft creak of the elevator arriving, though I hadn't pressed anything, I realized something else: I wasn't alone in this building. Not really. I thought the rules were a joke, a hazing ritual, a leftover list from someone trying to spice up a boring job. But I followed them. At first, just for the fun of it. Now, because I'm scared of what happens if I don't. Let me tell you how I learned, one rule at a time. On my third night, the lights flickered at exactly 2:44 a.m., all of them simultaneously. Then silence. That's when I heard it. A knock. Not at the front door, not from upstairs, from beneath my feet. Then came the whispers, muffled, hollow. They sounded like chanting, like someone was reading something in a language I didn't understand over and over. The basement door is down the service hall past the laundry chute. I walked over. I didn't open it. I just stood there listening. It was cold, unnaturally cold. Then the voice said, "We are missing one, clear, right behind the door." I never went down there again. One night it was raining hard, the kind of storm that makes the windows rattle. At 2:26 a.m., I saw a man outside the glass doors, soaking wet. No umbrella, just standing there, staring in. He smiled, then he waved. I moved toward the door instinctively. He didn't knock, he didn't speak, but his lips moved. "Hello." I almost responded, but something held me back. I remembered the rule. And in the flicker of lightning, just for a split second, I saw his reflection in the glass. He had no face, just skin stretched smooth where eyes and a mouth should have been. I turned off the lobby lights and waited behind the desk until sunrise. When I looked again, he was gone. But the floor was wet right where he'd been standing. The phone rang at exactly 3:00 a.m. I didn't check the line. I already knew. It rang 6 times. Then silence. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Only this time I didn't just hear the ring, I heard something underneath it. Like a second sound layered beneath the tone. It was breathing. Fast. Desperate. Like someone panicking. And whispering, "Help me. Help me." He's still in the mirror. I unplugged the phone that night. The next night, it still rang. There's no room 0 on the elevator panel. There's no room 0 on the floor plan. But on the 5th night, there was a key. It just appeared in the mail tray. Brass. Labeled, simply, 0. I tried to toss it. But the moment I looked away, it was back on the counter. At 3:13 a.m., I stood in the hallway outside room 701, and I saw it. A door that hadn't been there before. No number. Just an old iron handle. I didn't go in. But the key turned. On its own. From inside I heard my own voice, screaming. Behind the front desk is a long mirror cracked down the middle. Some nights it feels like it watches me. But one night I caught it moving. Not shaking, not wobbling. Sliding ever so slightly, like the wall behind it had just shifted. My reflection was no longer mine. It was still me, but my mouth was open wider than humanly possible. And my eyes were black, hollow, alive. I looked away. I didn't move again until the sun came up. The elevator dings sometimes with no one around. That's common in old buildings. But when the doors slide open at exactly 3:33 a.m., and you feel a gust of cold, wet air blow out from inside, and you hear the faint sound of water dripping, you don't step inside. One time I did. Just leaned in a little curious. I saw a corridor of doors made of salt-stained wood, all numbered with strange symbols. The elevator door started closing on its own. I pulled back just in time. I swear something tried to grab me from the ceiling. This is the only rule that feels like a ritual, a trade, a deal. Unlock the front door, wait 13 seconds, lock it again. The one time I forgot the clock stopped ticking, literally. Time froze at 3:13, my phone, the wall clock, everything. And then the man in the red coat walked into the lobby. No sound, no footsteps, just appeared. He stood in the center of the room and looked around. Then, he looked at me. "You forgot," he said. I screamed. And just like that, the clock ticked again. 3:14 a.m. He was gone, but a red thread was tied around my wrist when I woke up. They're not just rules. They're warnings, bargains, boundaries, and every night I follow them. Something gets a little closer. Something that doesn't like being ignored. I used to think the Knickerbocker was just a hotel with history. Now I know better. It's hungry. They say if you follow the rules, you'll be safe. But no one ever said what happens when something else breaks them. It was my 7th night. I had the routine memorized. I stayed behind the desk. I avoided the elevator. I ignored the mirror. And at exactly 3:13 a.m., I stood up, walked to the front door, unlocked it for 13 seconds, then locked it again, just like the rule said. Then I went back to the desk, sat down, waited for nothing to happen. But something did. It was soft, almost polite. 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. Not at the front door. Not from upstairs. From somewhere inside the hotel. It echoed through the lobby, faint but deliberate. Like someone was testing how close they could get without being seen. I froze. I looked at the clock. Still 3:13. The knock came again. This time, from behind me. I turned slowly, my skin already crawling before I moved. The hallway to the east wing, where most of the old guest rooms had been sealed off decades ago, was pitch black. But one door stood open. A door that had always been shut and chained. Room 704. I hadn't opened it. No one had. The air turned thick. My ears rang slightly, like the pressure had changed. I grabbed the flashlight from under the desk and pointed it toward the hallway. The beam flickered. Not from the battery, it flickered like something was trying to blink it out. And then I saw them. Wet footprints, trailing from the open room toward the front desk. I hadn't heard anyone enter. I hadn't seen anyone leave. But the footprints were still forming. I backed up against the desk, flashlight trembling in my hand. Then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. This time on the mirror behind me. I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't look. But I did. The reflection showed me standing behind the desk. Only I wasn't holding a flashlight. I was holding something else. Something long and dripping. My reflection smiled. It lifted its free hand and knocked on the glass. Once. Twice. Then leaned forward until its forehead pressed against the inside of the mirror. And whispered, "We're already inside." The light in the lobby went out. I fumbled for the backup switch, found the emergency light, flicked it on. The room lit up red, casting everything in a deep, unnatural glow. The footprints were gone. The door to room 704 was closed again, and the mirror cracked. A thin fracture ran straight through the center, and something moved behind the glass, like liquid trying to take shape. I didn't sleep that morning. I just sat at the front desk, hands clenched, staring at the lobby doors and praying for sunlight. They say 3:13 a.m. is the thin place when the world is weakest, when the barrier between what should exist and what waits to return begins to fade. I followed every rule, but whatever was knocking wasn't looking for permission. It was already here, and I think it knows my name now. There's something deeply wrong with the mirror behind the front desk. It started with small things, barely noticeable, easy to ignore. A twitch here, a shift there, my reflection blinking a little too late. But now I'm certain it's not me anymore. The first time I saw it, it was subtle. I bent down to pick up a room key I'd dropped, and when I looked back up, my reflection was already standing. Just standing there, staring at me. I blinked. So did it half a second too late. I laughed it off. Told myself it was just a trick of the light, or fatigue, or the warped glass. But somewhere in my gut, a deep instinct twisted like a knot. The kind you get when you know you're being watched. not by someone, by yourself. 2 nights later, during another silent stretch between 2 and 3 a.m., I felt compelled to look again. The lobby was empty, quiet, the air so still it felt underwater. I turned toward the mirror. My reflection stood as it should, but then it did something I didn't. It smiled. A slow, deliberate, too wide grin that stretched unnaturally across its face, my face. My own lips remained still. Then its head tilted. Then it waved. I backed away instinctively, and the reflection's smile widened further. The lights flickered, and for a split second, just a blink, its eyes bled. I covered the mirror the next night, draped an old sheet over it, taped the edges down. Didn't matter. By 3:13 a.m., the sheet was gone, and scrawled across the surface of the glass in something dark and wet were the words, "You are not the first." I touched the words. My fingers came away cold. The message faded before my eyes the way breath vanishes from cold glass. But it was still there, not written, etched. One night, I woke up behind the desk. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember closing my eyes. But I was standing. The chair was still pulled out facing the mirror. And in the mirror, I was sitting. The version of me in the mirror looked exhausted, dead-eyed, slumped forward. Then it looked up and smiled that same crooked, horrifying grin. I touched my face. It didn't smile back. After that, the mirror began to change subtly each night. Sometimes I would walk past and catch a second version of myself already watching me. Sometimes the reflection wore slightly different clothes or had a scratch I didn't remember getting. Once, I swear to you, I walked out of the bathroom and saw the mirror me walking away from the desk. A second later, I entered the room. I don't know which one of us is real anymore. 2 nights ago, something new happened. I tried to avoid the mirror. I covered it again. But when I glanced up, it was showing something else entirely. Not me, not the lobby, but a room I'd never seen before. A room with black walls soaked in water. And in the middle, a line of mirrors, all of them facing each other. Each mirror held a different version of me. Some weeping, some bleeding, some smiling. Then the one in the center stepped forward, leaned against the glass, and whispered, "Let me out." I turned around. The lobby was empty, but in the mirror, I was no longer there. They say mirrors reflect truth, but this one reflects intention. It's watching, waiting, and I don't know how much longer I'll be the one on the right side of the glass. If you ever work here at night, cover the mirror. Or better yet, break it. But if you do, be prepared to hear what comes out screaming. I noticed it on my 9th night. A printed check-in slip, fresh, crisp, still warm from the old thermal printer behind the desk. Name, Mr. Harold G. Room 705, date, October 14th, 1921. That's not a typo. That's what it said, printed from a machine I watched load with today's date. There was no guest, no sound of doors opening. But the key for 705 was gone from the wall. And upstairs, the light in room 705 was on. I checked the booking system. Nothing. No digital record. But every night since then, around 2:58 a.m., that same slip prints itself out, Mr. Harold G., 1921. No last name, no ID, no arrival. But always the same. Sometimes, I hear the elevator arrive with no one inside. Other times, the hallway light by 705 flickers, and I swear, I hear the faint crackle of jazz music, like it's playing from a phonograph buried behind the door. One night, I stood outside room 705 and placed my ear against the door. There was music, and beneath the music, a whisper. We never checked out. On the 12th night, I found a piece of luggage in the lobby, a leather suitcase, worn. Tagged in elegant cursive, Mr. Harold G. Knickerbocker Hotel Room 705. Arriving October 14th, 1921. The lock was old-fashioned. No zippers, just brass clasps. Inside, a set of perfectly folded 1920s evening wear. A fountain pen still inked. A ticket stub for a Broadway show that hasn't existed since Prohibition. And a letter, unsent, addressed only. To whom it may concern, he's still in the mirror. Please, seal the door. I never saw the suitcase again. One night I made the mistake of watching the security monitor too closely. I was cycling through the cameras when room 705 lit up, even though it hadn't been occupied in decades. The hallway outside remained dark, yet the monitor showed shadows moving inside the room. Then, the audio feed crackled. Faint static. Then breathing. He found the door. They told him not to. He opened it anyway. I rewound the footage. The screen went black. In the lobby hangs a wall of vintage photographs, early 1900s staff and guests. I never paid them much attention, until I saw him. Middle row center. A man in a tailored suit, slick back hair, pale. A faint nameplate beneath Harold G., distinguished guest, 1921. I swear to you, when I came back the next night, the photo had changed. Same man, same pose, but this time, he was looking at the camera, and he was smiling. One night around 3:00 a.m. I heard the unmistakable sound of a door opening upstairs. I checked the board. The key to 705 had returned, just hanging there. But the slip for Harold G. was still on the printer tray. No one had touched it. I climbed the stairs. The hallway was colder than usual, unnaturally cold, like winter had leaked into the building. The door to room 705 was ajar. I reached for it. From inside, a voice whispered, "We're all guests now. There is no checkout." The door slammed shut before I could move. I don't know what Harold G. is. A ghost, a memory, a glitch in time. All I know is he checks in every night and the hotel makes room for him. And if you ever find yourself working the desk at the Knickerbocker, don't assign room 705. It's already taken. Rule number 1. Never enter the basement, no matter what you hear. I followed that rule longer than any of the others, because from the very first night I knew something was down there. Something that didn't want to be ignored. But rules don't matter when the power goes out. It was my 14th night. 3:07 a.m. The lobby lights flickered once, then died completely. The emergency generator buzzed but failed to kick in. Even my phone, full battery minutes before, went black. The hotel was completely silent. Not dead silent, waiting silent. I stood in total darkness. No clocks, no lights, no sense of time. Then I heard it. A soft, steady tapping. Not from above, not from behind, from below. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. And then, the whisper. "Come down. We're missing someone." The basement is accessed through a service hallway I've avoided since day one. But that night I was drawn to it. Not out of bravery, out of something else. Like I was being pulled. I reached the door at the end of the hallway. It wasn't locked. A rusted chain had always held it shut before, wrapped tightly with an old sign nailed above it. "Do not enter. Staff only. Since 1924. But tonight, the chain lay on the ground. Snapped. The handle was ice cold. When I gripped it, my hand trembled, but not from fear. From something deeper. Recognition. Like I had touched this door before. The air grew thick as I stepped into the stairwell. Each step down echoed like I was descending into a well. My flashlight flickered violently the deeper I went. Halfway down, I passed an old light switch, faded and cracked. I flipped it. Nothing. The walls were lined with peeling wallpaper, traces of handprints, some small like children's, smudged in streaks of grime or something darker. Then the whisper came again. "You're almost home." The stairs ended in a long corridor lined with locked doors. Old utility closets, cracked lockers. A rusted sign on the wall read "Staff Quarters," closed indefinitely. But one door at the end stood open, just slightly. Inside I could see dim movement, like light dancing on water. As I approached, the temperature dropped. And then I saw it. A large wooden door, far older than the others, partially sealed with wax, broken in several places. There were symbols carved into the frame, not words, something older, burnt into the wood like scars. The whisper came again, this time directly into my ear. "You were supposed to come sooner." I didn't open it. I swear to you, I didn't touch the handle. But the door creaked open anyway. Inside was a room. Circular. Windowless. The walls were covered in mirrors all cracked. Each mirror reflected not me, but different versions of me. One screaming, one weeping blood, one laughing manically, one staring directly at me. In the center of the room stood a chair facing away, and on it, a shape. Humanoid but shimmering like it wasn't fully solid. It turned its head slowly. It had my face, but older, worn, hollow-eyed, like a version of me that had been stuck down here for decades. Then it spoke. Now there are two of us. The lights shattered. The door slammed shut. I don't remember climbing the stairs, only the sound of my breath, and the feeling that something was chasing me, not footsteps. Just the certainty that if I turned around, I'd see myself smiling back. I burst into the lobby just as the power returned. The lights buzzed. The clock ticked. 3:13 a.m. Exactly. Since that night, I hear the whispers more often. They know I opened the door. They know I saw what waits below. And sometimes, when I catch my reflection moving wrong again, I don't think it's trying to scare me anymore. I think it's waiting for me to come back. They say repetition dulls fear. But not here. Not at the Knickerbocker, because when the same horrors repeat, and you remember all of them, that's not routine. That's a trap. It started with a glance at the clock. 12 sonoros a.m. Sharp. Always. Nothing strange until I realized I had already heard this silence before. Already placed the key tray exactly that way. Already checked the lobby lights, already knew one of them would flicker. I shrugged it off. But then I opened the drawer. Inside was a folded yellowed piece of paper. 7 rules to survive. No jokes, no skipping, no questions. I had already read that note 10 nights ago. Except, the date on it now said, Night 1 again. At 2:58 a.m. the printer started. Mr. Harold G. Room 705, October 14th, 1921. I laughed bitterly. Of course. I tore up the slip and threw it in the trash. But when I turned back to the desk, there it was again. Fresh. Printed. Still warm. That night I went up to room 705 to confront whatever it was. The door was open. Inside was a room perfectly clean, untouched by time. But the photo on the nightstand. It was me. Standing behind the front desk, smiling, captioned Night Manager, Esterner 1921. Every night since then has been a version of the same. At 3:13 a.m. the whispers begin. The elevator dings even if no one presses it. The mirror shows me doing things I've never done. Some nights I see myself standing at the front door watching from the outside. Other nights I'm in the lobby and my reflection is walking away. But always, the basement door is open again. And each time I return, something in the hotel has changed. The photos, the halls. The air feels thicker, like it's remembering me more than I remember it. One night I found a torn page under the desk blotter, handwritten in my handwriting. But I never wrote it. If you're reading this, it's too late. Don't trust the clocks. You are not on night 14. You are not the first. You are not the only you. Me last night, something changed. The door opened. Not the basement. Room 0. It was just there. In the hallway where it had never been. Old wood. Iron handle. Brass number carved into the surface like a scar. I tried to walk away, but my body moved forward. Not pulled, not possessed. Just obeying. Inside mirrors. Hundreds. All angled toward a central platform. And on it a chair. Someone was sitting there, facing away. As I stepped closer, they turned slightly. It was me, but older, much older. Eyes sunken, skin pale, like I hadn't seen sunlight in years. He didn't speak. He just handed me a clipboard. Knickerbocker Hotel, Night Manager Logbook. Page 1, Night 1, 12:00 a.m. First shift begins. Page 4, 2:13 Night 1, 12:00 a.m. First shift begins. Page 4, 2:14 Night 1, 12:00 a.m. First shift begins. And it kept going. Thousands of them, all labeled Night 1. Then I blinked. The lights are on. The desk is clean. The first key slip prints again. Mr. Harold G. Room 705, October 14th, 1921. I leave the front door unlocked at 3:13 a.m. I don't ask questions anymore. I just follow the rules. Because the real horror isn't the ghosts, or the mirrors, or the basement. It's that I've done this before, thousands of times. And tonight might be your turn. If you're reading this, I've finally found a way to send a message out. Don't take the job. But if you already have, leave. Before the clock strikes 3:13. Or else you'll be right where I am. Still here. Forever. If you found this story valuable and interesting, please hit the like button. This really helps us bring you more good and valuable content. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think, what questions you have, or what topics you would like us to cover next. We love hearing from you. Of course, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next stories. Thank you for taking the time to read my stories.